Good morning, everyone. So new all-time highs. I wouldn't have believed it a couple of months ago. But so Bitcoin is on its way, looks like today, after this pullback and push up to new all-time highs again. We'll see. I mean, after a little run like this, it is possible it could turn into an M top. But the strength and this breakdown failure communicate that buyers are aggressive. That's important. You can see it's up here this morning. Um, so I would assume it's going to go higher. Um, got this congestion over here to the left to deal with, of course. But a little, there's the breakdown failure, that shakeout on the daily. It looked pretty nasty. It came all the way back up, consolidated at resistance. This is what we talk about in MT Live, patterns like this week to week. Um, so when we see it, it's like, all right, the next stopping point, that resistance area to deal with. And the fact that this is in an uptrend, um, again, suggests it should make new all-time highs. Right, these markets are stalled here this morning, and some up a little bit, uh, more of a wait and see. That's the way it's been week to week. And you see a whole month pretty much of just wait and see, up and down, up and down. Um, and so while the futures didn't push up above this resistance area, you'll see the Qs and the S&P 500 on that gap up Friday did. And so, the weekly charts on, YM anyway, didn't clear the prior 3 weeks highs, but on a closing basis, it certainly looks like it's a higher close. Right? Just eyeballing that, not by much, and neither did the others take it out by much. But after 3 weeks of going nowhere, and then the fourth week, and that close, when it takes it out, and we could only assume one thing. Well, we could assume sellers will sell the breakout, but the pattern suggests higher. So clearing those highs, it should go up to the next resistance area. NQ similarly, more of a self-correcting uptrend, a grind higher, as most things were grinding higher. Semiconductors, which closed strong, we'll take a peek at that. But it looks like it should go up toward the highs. Right? After the run, sideways chop for 3 or 4 weeks, and now the strength, I would assume it's going to continue, and it shouldn't go down here. It really, really ideally shouldn't even go below Friday's low, but that would be kind of tight. Right? S&Ps, same pattern, going sideways for a month, and now ready to break out. The Russell already, right? That pushed up, and that's leading the way this morning. So finally clearing those pivot highs, and we assume it's going to continue to go higher. It shouldn't go back below Friday's low. Right? That's when you got a little range expansion bar, and prices clear the highs. When things are clicking the way they should, it doesn't go back down below the breakout bar's low. And certainly there's a pivot on the intraday time frame right there. You can see where my cursor is on the 65-minute chart. You can see that little pullback, little dip and reversal there. So it's a nice distance above that, and it shouldn't go down. It shouldn't go down below that. If buyers continue to step up, strong demand, it'll continue to grind higher, and that's the bias until proven otherwise. Gold, just flipping, flopping around here. It looked like it was heading higher there, and just look at the dollar, which has been stabilizing. If you look at them side by side, you see that as this was going down, gold was going up, and since this went into a trading range, which we know after the fact, right, that it's a trading range. That's what gold's been doing. So as the dollar, jiggles around here, gold's been jiggling around and just not decisively breaking one way or another. But we look at the longer time frame, and this is beginning to take a look like a W type of a bottom. So see how that progresses. It is on an area of prior support here, so it's in the right location. And so if these are going to go up, right, the odd thing is, and the markets ignored this on Friday, was the sharp rise in interest rates. And so we had talked about this a week ago, and the pattern. This was in an uptrend. It wound up, moving down, and now it flipped right back up again. And markets don't care for the moment. I think eventually they have to care. You can see that bottoming tail bar, and of course, there's a little shake out there and suggests it's going to go up. So I think if these interest rates stay within this range, give or take, they don't move up too aggressively. And you can see where they are here right now, not really doing much of anything either. Um, maybe the markets can continue to push higher as long as these interest rates don't spike up toward this high here. So I would just set an alert in between here and, you know, just deal with whatever we're dealing with accordingly. But, you look at this chart of bond prices, you can see the spike up and down, and now a lower high. And so here's, I thought this was going to roll lower and interest rates would go up, and there was this wiggle. But, now we've got this decisive down bar, and look at that weekly bar. So, you got to be aware of what these interest rates are doing here, because equities everywhere look like they're going to go higher. So the probability of new all-time highs. But if this bond market, these bond prices start spiking down, and less of an influence, but at 11:30, they're 3-month and 6-month auctions. So I don't know how much of an effect it'll have, but keep a thought of that at 11:30, and there's consumer inflation expectations at 11 o'clock. Anybody care what the consumer thinks? I don't know. No. 11 o'clock, 11:30, some news coming out, but the most significant news happens Wednesday, Thursday on about inflation and jobs and all that. So maybe the coast is clear until then. All right. Um, so a lot of things look like they're going to go higher, right? But there was a little poke up on Friday where it cleared resistance areas, gapped up, and then it went nowhere. So financials up a little bit. Again, things aren't moving much. Internet, this had a nice start of a move up, leading the way. Looks like it's headed up toward all-time highs. We looked at IWM, mid caps to a lesser extent, but this is where we start looking for, our expectation is that breadth begins to expand, and these mid caps start participating, and everything else does. And so if that should happen, our internals, which are now neutral, right, breadth began to flip up on Friday. So if things start moving up together and breadth expands, and maybe by the end of the week, maybe our internals will reach another risk off scenario here, which it did over here, and we got a month of sideways chop. And so now that appears to have resolved itself, and things should start picking up to the upside. Why aren't they moving this morning? Right? Well, IWM is, but you would think after, if you look around, as we'd have, these bottoming patterns in the close on Friday, thinking, why aren't buyers more enthusiastic here this morning? Well, we've been blindsided a few times in a month of consolidation. Could it continue? I suppose. But, what's going to happen? Trump, China, all of that stuff that's we've been dealing with. But again, the chart suggests they're going to go higher. Um, and the bond market doesn't. So I don't know how to deal with that other than to just go with until things change. Otherwise, semiconductors, they're getting closer to resistance, but look, got some of these weekly bars, they're wide range, they're impressive. So, that move up, sure, it might jiggle around. We want to see it stay in the top of that range there. And if it does pull back, we get a bottoming tail bar on the daily, some kind of continuation pattern. You see things are, up a little bit, but for the most part, things aren't moving. Not yet. All right. So spiders, let's move our little red line up there. It was Friday, gapping to the high. That bar's high, and things are pretty flat here. Um, but again, consolidation, closing above the highs, weekly bar closing above the prior 3 weeks. Bias has to be it's going to go up. So flat, SPX, again, our extremes last week. Nothing's been touched in a long time. So it gives you guidelines. I looked this morning, the average range as things have tightened up. Remember back here was like, I think if I remember correctly, it was like maybe 130 points, maybe more. Now at the 5-day average range is about 60 points. So it kind of gives you an expectation for day to day as to what has been going on, what might continue. See if things are tightening up here. All right, well, look, just based on the chart where that lower one is, it goes down there today, something's wrong, right? So that would be the takeaway as far as that number. If it goes down there today, something is wrong. It should make an attempt to go higher. It's not moving yet. And I would suspect neither one are going to be touched. But from here, let's call it 6,060. It's within range to reach it. And so is the bottom. So we don't have, if prices were gapping up significantly, this would be theoretically, because the way it typically is, much higher, a no-brainer. So based on unknown news, either one of these is within striking distance based on average true range, which has been happening. So we'll see what happens. There you go. All yours, Dan.
Mhm. Yeah, that's going to be a busy morning for me because we have a ton of opens and we, believe it or not, have a ton of new ideas too. So, I mean, everything looks good, which as a contrarian, you got to say, all right, we got to be on guard looking for a trap, which is true, but we always are on the guard looking out for a trap via bar by bar analysis. But I mentioned in the green room that the internals being neutral have gas in the tank, so we're going to trade what is. I noticed this whole IONQ sector. I had all these on my list. We got into a couple of them on Tuesday, and they're making nice continuation moves here today. atomic song robot, and so I got a ton of alarms going off. Yeah, it's a bottoming pattern. Now see how quickly my eye went to the monthly. So the monthly is telling me it's not a core trade. It's just trade, trade the bounce until whatever. But if the monthly were coming out of a base, then it could have been a bigger trade. All right, I got a ton of alarms here. Let's go through them. Visco alarm just went off. Now see, so this one is a great example to follow the other one I just mentioned in terms of so new alarms here. 22. Of multiple time frame and analysis. So we sold a put spread on this Friday, but it's in the letter to buy the stock over the Friday's high. And you might say, well, that doesn't look very compelling because it's a retracement from this rounded top. And I would say you're correct. It's not a typical breakout of tight consolidation. But what I like about it is the weekly, monthly are in alignment. So this was a bottoming pattern, Climo greater than 100%, big move up, and I got a little bull flag buy setup. So so I'm like trading the daily and the weekly. I'm gonna give it room. So we're gonna give it a big stop. Last week's low. So that just went off. NXT, nice turn here. We bought that. I had an alarm go off. I reset it. The titter, another example. Now, this is not a great directional because of all this resistance, but it made the turn. It's the same as Visco. It was a Climo on major support, big move up, buy setup. So but I'm not buying this one because for too much junk to the left, but we sold a put spread. And now that's gapping up nicely. So we'll tighten our stop. That looks great. KKR. We were trying to do a put spread on this on Friday, just a little gap breakout. Another example. This is not a great directional with all that junk, but selling a put spread under Thursday's low is a different trade. So that's in the letter to try again. AAL, Greg mentioned in the letter. Airlines, it's coming out of a nice base here. So that looks good. I was bidding for that pre-market and I just noticed I did not get filled. Delta came out of a nice base there. That would have been a no-brainer put spread, but there was no juice. Teradyne coming out of a base, bottoming pattern. Naked put idea on the 80s we're going to do. PayPal, sloppy, but I like the breakdown failure. I like the weekly, so that we're going to buy some calls. Weatherford, bottoming pattern. UCO, bottoming pattern. My up alarm went off. Let me reset it. Tesla alarm went off. We shorted naked puts on this on the intraday Climo on Thursday. We covered half, and now the stop is a 30-minute low. this feud, Trump and Musk. It's like adult children, exactly what it is. But I think I'd say collectively the media is giving Musk a worse time over it. And so, that could be part of the gap down here today. And also, I think it got a downgrade, maybe somebody else saying their robo, robo cop taxi is not as good. Plug, another bottoming pattern I like over Friday's high. And that's it. Those are all my alarms. So we have a ton of opens. If you have any questions, let me just go through my list here. I got a massive interest list today. On WBD, the news is saying they're going to split up, but I don't see any pattern. Apple has their annual developers conference. So, you just got to be on alert for possible moves up or down. And what would be the cause of those moves? Well, it's up with anything else. That's the news. Is it better or worse than the market expected? Saber alarm just went off. Another bottoming pattern, daily, weekly. We were going to buy call options on this, $2 calls, I think. So Apple, I'm always watching the fangs, so I don't need him here. Echo Hotel. These little stocks are up because of some executive order Trump signed. Now this is a nice pattern, and similar to some of those other ones I mentioned, like Visco, because the weekly is in alignment. Look, it's a deep retracement, but it's a buy setup after a breakout, all-time highs. And now this was a buy setup following a CLIMO. So we say that many times those fail. That's exactly what it did. But we got a second buy setup. So this was on my watch list, but now the gap's messing it up. That's a big old gap. And then these were in the sector too. Joby, sloppier, but a little similar, right? So got a retest of a buy setup. 894, gap's too big though. If they were gapping at 850, then I'd be all over this trying to get an entry this morning. Echo Hotel. Yeah, that was junk. So those were good, but gap's too big. Pen bottoming pattern. There was some news about some state raising taxes on gambling. So that's why these were in focus a little bit. 36, dunking, DraftKings, that's a put spread. If there's any juice, I like that. So, as always, the ones I tell you I like, if people want to help me at the open. Flat 257. So that's an igniting breakout. That would be a good one to watch a pullback. Let's put flat down here in the bottom. MGM, we actually had in the letter, MGM. That's a nice retest, but it has to break out. Otherwise, no trade. But that's good for a put spread and directional. I just had Fizzler alarm go off. We're long stock on this. Looks great. We actually found this Wednesday during MT Live. We were scanning. And so that's a beautiful breakout app. That's just textbook. The slide we have about 180 breakdowns. That's it. That is the picture of it. It's a breakout following a 180 breakdown. It's a shakeout. It's a 2-bar shakeout. So that, again, it goes back to seasoning and starting with Greg's course and seasoning and getting the confidence. But Greg and I were all over this. I was watching it here, but the green room knows. I kept saying, there's no potent turn yet. There's no turn. And I said exactly this. We need a potent turn. We need a bottoming tail. We need a gap reversal. We need a 180. And voila, it was delivered. Bullish weekly. Patrick, I just talked about it. What's your question? The gap breakout. I'm watching a pullback. Lulu alarm. This thing got creamed on earnings on Friday. I guess my up alarm went off there, just maybe 30-minute high. Could be a day trade. UCO alarm. So that looks good. Oil breaking out. I like the white beach as a put spread, but spreads were asinine. But let's keep an eye on that. There were a couple oil trades in the weekend letter. Plug. Oh, alarm went off, and then it just backtracked a little. So yeah, we're long TNA, and TNA we're long this nice gap breakout on Friday, and it's holding the best here pre-market. The Qs are 100% coma. It's going sideways here, and so that could be the red herring of the market not moving up, even though they all look higher. Is kind of what Greg indirectly said, that hey, why aren't they accelerating? Why aren't they going up more? And then if the longer it doesn't happen, then the higher chance of selling can start picking up. For obvious psychology, like we're in all these things, right? And then we give it patience, and it's like then we start tightening stops, start cutting some because they ain't moving, and then it starts feeding on itself. Our PEB alarm just went off. Nice little retest pattern here, bottoming pattern again, bullish weekly. Visco again. All right, so we're already in the put spread, but my alarm keeps going off for the directional. Um, all right, yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna be so freaking slammed this morning. All right, NOV has a go. I forgot if I did a put spread or directional. NOV. NOV is buying calls, the $12 calls. Wow, it got spreading. Let's just do the stock instead because it got spreading. F sell up alarm. I sold puts on that myself. Wow, even the stock is spreading on NOV. I'm gonna go high bid, 1263. Yeah, F sell. I sold $6 puts, I think. And then that's what made me look at plug also. So plug is a go at 101. Um, yeah, so yeah, there's I sold some of my TMA at the open and then looking to add pull back. I have short puts also. Yeah. So let them just, I'm gonna keep my short puts. Yeah, my alarm went off, Greg. I also gave a pre-market adjustment to it. I'm saying to move it under this closing 15-minute pivot, but let's look what our profit is right now. Maybe we just sell it. It's 43 calls. Yeah, they're spreading. June 13. Yeah, 40. Wow, we're not up that much. So let's offer out because it's spreading. All right, so this is, let's just try to bail on this one. Yeah, Alex, yeah, I didn't get to those yet, but there's like 5 of them here I typed that they were all running up on the, I don't know if you call it a rumor or expectation or hope that they were going to be added to the S&P 500, and they weren't. And then they all fell. Yeah, of course. Yeah, but remember, Don, you always get the intrinsic value at a minimum too. All right, diamonds falling hard on the 15. So I look up. McDonald's is down $6. This we had as a call spread on Friday, and we did not get filled. So look, I was tempted to put this in as a shorting the stock, but I was thinking the target was right here, and it was only 1-to-1. But I was going to mention that for a day trade. I just didn't get to everything. But yeah, that's a bearish topping pattern. Visa down 4, cream down. So Visa, it's not a textbook M top because of the way this grinded as opposed to a momentum move, but we just call it a bearish retest. So 30-minute low, that could be a call spread. ANF, Alex, ANF up alarm, even with the market selling off. So let's move a stop under 82. Thomas, just I hate to bust your bubble. Starbucks is not part of Jets. I mean, they might sell Starbucks on it, but that's different. Alex and Greg was making fun of our bottoming pattern ANF. Shame on him.